Okay, so for this month's Fearless Fridays, I'm really excited to finally be talking to Rachel, a former colleague from Procter& and Gamble. Rachel, if you'd like to start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your career transition so far.
Hi, my name is Rachel Reunis. I worked with P&G for about 9 years. I was one of those interesting people that actually came in through the back door because I'd already had some work experience, which probably also explains some decisions that I made throughout my career and also why I left. Um, I was always in Prestige, which is the perfume cosmetics department of Procter& and Gamble, which I absolutely loved. Luxury goodies that smell good and make people happy. Um, International roles in sales and marketing and global marketing as well. Every single one of them had their benefits and every single one of them had their pitfalls. But the only thing that I can say about P&G is that it probably was the best school I've ever been to. At some point, it was time to leave. And it's as simple as that. It was time to leave. And then I went through this beautiful roller coaster of trying to figure out what to do with my life afterwards. Trying to split it between finding the right job again and actually scratching that itch of maybe doing something for myself. So actually, quite frankly, that's where I find myself right now, doing something for myself and absolutely loving it.
And can we explore a little bit? You said sort of it was time. What does that mean exactly? How did you know it was time? What were the symptoms, or how did you make that decision?
The symptoms. Well, it was like a perfect storm of things coming together. To be very honest, I had been up for promotion for quite some time. I was doing okay. At least I thought I was doing okay, but I was doing okay according to my standards. And unfortunately, sometimes corporate standards are not completely in line with your personal standards. Um, this I started seeing over the last year or two that I was working at Procter& and Gamble. And this was also where I went. When I came into Procter& and Gamble, I was not the standard straight out of university recruit, and I always felt like I never really got that molding that a lot of people get, and that's how they actually survive better in that type of corporate environment. Now, I guess 9 years of survival still is pretty good, but I always felt like I wasn't the good soldier. I often questioned things, and I unfortunately also often questioned them out loud, which wasn't always the thing to do. It was for me personally, the right thing to do, but for the corporate environment, maybe not. And over the last year or two, I had an amazing time in one of my roles, the previous one, and then I got put into a role where I didn't feel quite comfortable, and that just started coming together to a point that I thought maybe this is just not for me. Maybe I just should try and find a different corporation or do something for myself where I really feel that I can follow my own path and my own values. Again, that doesn't mean that Procter& and Gamble wasn't good to me. They were very good to me at the end as well. Apparently, they did appreciate what I did, but I just couldn't quite see that anymore at the end. Um, but I left also at a time that the department was being sold. And strangely, I probably already felt that the year or two before, that something was in the pipeline, but we just were not allowed to know about it yet. And that's probably also where the discomfort came from, because I knew we were doing things that were not really good for the company. I kept saying something about it, but there was, quite frankly, no point because we were going to be sold anyway. So that was a strange time, and it took me a while actually after leaving P&G also to kind of get over that and realign my gut feeling back with my brain, and that they actually do work together, and that it is okay to question things. And that time I had to use as a bit of a reflection, in which you actually were very valuable as well, helping me through that. Thank you very much. Um, and that's about six to 9 months, quite frankly. And then I tried to figure out what I wanted to do, and that's again where I am right now.
Well, that's interesting. As you said, it's a perfect storm sort of macro and micro factors, some to do with you, some internal, some external, that are sort of out of your control. And also that you, in a way, it sounds like you were never sort of the right fit for that kind of corporate environment, as you said, to some extent. But I think the reality is, if you're smart and capable, you are able to fit yourself into that. It's not necessarily sort of the best fit for you, but you are able to thrive. But there comes a point, maybe, as you said, it just becomes time. Hang on, 9 years, as you said, is quite a decent time in a company. So
yeah, I did all right.
Yeah, well done.
I'm being a bit of an odd one out. I did okay.
Absolutely.
No, and I really enjoyed it as well. It was an amazing school, and it was better than school because it was hands-on. You had to do it. And Procter & Gamble was one of those companies that did, not always, but usually, they would allow you to make a mistake or two. You could give it a go. You could try things. You could be strangely entrepreneurial within a huge business. Again, at the end, that became a little bit more difficult. And I think also that's what then started to bug me a little bit. I thought, okay, but wait a minute. I was allowed to do this for 6 or 7 years. Why not? But anyway, so we now know, with hindsight is 2020, right? So it was a perfect storm of circumstances, internal and external. But at that time, it was quite uncomfortable.
But I think that's a very positive note and a way to leave a company, to recognise, what, this has been amazing. I've made some great friends. I've learned a lot, but now it is time to move on. And I think that's a really good frame of mind in which to move forwards to a new challenge.
Yeah. And it was the right time. I think it could have gotten worse. I remember I left. We parted as friends, and I'm happy that I didn't stay longer, because I think I might have started to resent the situation. Do you understand what I mean? Like, it would have been maybe you start to become uncomfortable, and it was the right time. It was okay. It was good.
Great. And what have been the biggest challenges, I guess, either making that decision at the time or since you've made that decision, the last, as you said, sort of 9 months of exploration and now sort of finding your feet?
Strangely, making the decision to leave was remarkably easy. Because the moment, I'm very much a person that I think things over a million times. The moment I say it, it's already done, pretty much. So the moment I've mulled this over a gazillion times, talked it with my husband, talked it with my friends, and then the moment I announced it, it was as if this huge weight lifted off my shoulders. It was just like, oh, okay, I'm done. And it was absolutely wonderful. And there's people that thrive in the business, the people that are still there. For a lot of people, it still worked, or it doesn't and they stay, but that's a different story. But for me, it was just done. And it was just so nice to be able to say it. Now, after, that is when it became hard. Because if you do spend 9 years in corporate heaven, and a couple of years before that within big companies as well, that's how you're wired. Working on your own, trying to figure out what the priorities are, what you really want to do, what is important, what is good, what is not, without having your annual review and your data to back you up, is really hard. And I'm quite, let's call it insecure in that sense. I like numbers because they don't lie. If they're plus 100, then it's good. And if they're under 100, then it's not good, right? But in this individual working environment, you don't always have those numbers, right? So you really need to review how you figure out what's good, or what's success, or what's failure, or what's and that was really hard. Also, I was completely lost because I had many ideas, which is a luxury, and it's part of who I am, and creative and stuff like that. But it also makes it a chaos and really hard to figure out what you want to do. Plus, I always love everything. So when people come, oh, you could do this, like, oh yeah, I could do that too. Guess what? You can't. And that's also where we've talked about this many times, about the importance of actually you really do have to focus on just one or two things and really do them well. And 1 or 2 or 3 things can still be a very nice portfolio career, which I also find myself at the moment. But I sometimes need to be careful not to go, oh, this is cool, and then just completely go the other direction and then forget what I was actually doing.
I guess, yeah, that's a luxury, I guess, as you said, and it's a good thing that you can be happy doing several things. So in theory, that takes the pressure off choosing something, because you know that actually a lot of these options could be good. It's just a matter of choosing and then having the discipline to stick with it for long enough to see if it's going to work out, I guess.
Exactly.
And you mentioned your husband there. Where did you get the support through this time? I guess the decision was easy, you said, but through these dips that you've had over the last year, where do you think what's helped you get out?
I have a husband that deserves a medal or two because he's been very understanding about these dips because they just do happen.
Mm-hmm.
But he's actually one of the ones that was most supportive of me leaving the company.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had, quite frankly, had a very miserable bunny coming home on a daily basis. He's like, right, that's it, enough. You hate it. We'll make it work. Don't worry, we'll make it work one way or another. Quit. And I thought, oh, okay. and now even still, I don't have a fixed income. I rely on if I have a customer or not this month. And even then, he says, you know what? Go for it. We'll make it work. I'm the one that lies awake at night. He doesn't. Bless him. But yeah, I do worry about that a lot. But that really helps. Then family is. My parents are very understanding, which I thought they wouldn't be. That's really funny. So my parents are relatively traditional in the sense that my mom worked from home and was a teacher. And my dad had a 35 corporate career with the same company. Now, if you grow up with that, that is your example. So my mom had a very steady job, flexible and part-time, but still, she knew what she was doing. She enjoyed that. And my dad was always with the same company. Now, you come into Procter & Gamble, you see yourself becoming your father. And then you think, I'm not entirely sure if this is the right path for me. And I was so scared to reach that subject in the very beginning, to talk to my parents about that maybe this was not exactly what I would see myself doing for the next 35 years. And guess what? They just went, no, we didn't think so either.
That's amazing.
It's so funny, and now they're very supportive. I call my dad on a regular basis just to kind of ping pong some ideas off it, and it's great. But I guess the fear was also again in my head that I think that's not what I should be doing, right? But you should listen to your gut feeling and not to your head every once in a while.
But especially there where the limitations are what you think other people are saying or would say, and in fact when you maybe they will say that, but in this case they actually didn't. So it seems unnecessary to worry ahead of actually finding out what the answer is.
Absolutely, and then just ask. And the worst thing that can happen is that they confirm your fears and it is right. So you will worry about the right thing, right? So it's easy to say right now, but in that moment, it's really, it was quite difficult because I also felt a bit like a failure because I didn't actually fit perfectly into that corporate frame, and I didn't get the next promotion, and I didn't get. I'm so happy that I don't find that important anymore.
Well, yes, and I guess it's hard not to find that important when you're in that bubble, right? Because that is the world. But I mean, this is something I'm really passionate about. That failure, according to whose eyes? If you take a step back and actually, success for me is not becoming CEO of this particular corporation. So exactly. 9 years is actually a great time. I've done, learned what I wanted, and now I'm ready for the next project.
Exactly. And there was also a point where I had to stop looking at LinkedIn for a while, just to save my sanity. And it was just the 3 to 6 months after I left, because I saw all these people getting promoted within the sale of the business and people getting new jobs within the company. And then there's little voice in the back of my head, but that should have been you. And then I think, actually no. But I did have that moment. And I guess you just don't get over a 9-year relationship that quickly.
But
that's friends, right?
That is, I mean, again, all the social media and certainly LinkedIn, I noticed those things happening too at the time. So lots of people are changing jobs, and then I realised actually no, it's just the company changing. They're just getting another title, right? So, for me too, though, when I left, I mean, there were a couple of really interesting within that world roles that I thought I was under consideration for. Then I heard someone else got them, and I had a brief. Why did I not get that? But then I thought, no, best thing that ever happened. And then, sort of just recalibrate. Yeah, I
really had to get over that. I found that very hard in the beginning. And I guess I'm not the only one that just get inspired. But on the other hand, nobody puts a sad day on Facebook, right? So people have bad days as well.
And that's a big thing. So, yeah. And we were talking about that before, turning off notifications, like especially Facebook, I think, is sort of can be potentially quite depressing, where you sort of compare yourself to the best of every single person online.
Yeah, in my case, it's Instagram. Because there's always better and more. And then what I tell a lot of people that I work with on personal branding projects is like, first of all, you need to realize that you are already in the top 1% people on Instagram that have more than 1,000 followers, because there are not that many. So that's perspective is incredible. And sometimes I need to tell myself that, which I'm not very good at. I prefer other people to tell me that. But I don't have those people around all the time. So sometimes I need to actively seek it out, which I'm also not very good at, but I should give that another go every once in a while.
Definitely.
But yeah, the notifications and, okay, this picture didn't get as many there's a high engagement as the previous one. Did I do something wrong? And they're like, no, because Instagram is a long-term game. It's not a daily measurable. Anyway, so that I hear myself then saying what I say to my customers. So it's an interesting thing. But that's the funniest thing about the business that I run, because it is two-faced in a way. So on one side, I have my own personal influencer business. So send me something pretty, I will wear it, and you pay for it. That's it. Make a picture of it. And the blog with fashion inspiration. And on the other side, I help brands and people put themselves in the equestrian market in the right way. And so I can kind of learn from both sides, and it's been really interesting. And the influencer activity that I've done helped me understand how digital marketing works, how the social media world really works, not theoretically, really works. I've made every single mistake in the book. So I am now allowed to tell people, don't do this or don't do that. And they're like, I said, well, I tried it and it didn't work. So, which is great. It's been a good school, but it's a bit schizophrenic sometimes.
Well, but that sounds like a very clever portfolio career, because it's first of all sort of different ways in which you're putting yourself out there, as you said, and different parts of your brain, I suppose, and different sort of things you're doing, which is great for someone who's sort of multi-talented and has lots of interests. And then secondly, they also do feed into each other. So that sounds like a good sort of diverse but still complementary portfolio. Absolutely.
However, then there's other things that kind of would theoretically fit in as well, where I think, oh, that would be fun. And then I really have to then pull back and go, maybe not today, maybe next year.
Maybe not today, but that's an important one. You don't have to put it away forever, right? But it's just for right now I'm building this. And once you have your 6-figure business and team of 10 managing that, then you can move on to the next thing, and that's fine.
I hope so.
So what would you say is the best part of your work and lifestyle now? You mentioned freedom.
Yeah, freedom. Flexibility. On top of that, I also ride other people's horses for them. So talk about portfolio career.
You get paid for that?
Yeah. Nice. Which I would have never been able to do if I had a 9-to-5 job. It's already hard enough. Sorry, excuse me. Talking too much. It's already hard enough to combine just one horse with a full-time job, let alone 2 or 3 this morning, actually. So it's something I thoroughly enjoy. And being with the horses is also my little bit of disconnect time, because most of my life takes place online, either in a Skype call or on Instagram, or whatever I need to do is in front of a screen. Being with the horses is I'm not here right now. I can pick up the phone, but that's about it. And it's really, really good disconnect time, and I love doing it. So yeah, the flexibility of having that time to add that into the mix as well is absolutely magnificent.
I remember when we spoke, I guess more than a year ago now, you mentioned sort of, I'd love to have a horse, but maybe long term in the future, and then ta-da, that was something you realised quite quickly. So that's amazing.
Yeah, but it was also a bit of a now or never thing, because I just left. We were financially okay, and I thought, you know what? If I don't do it now, I will continue to overthink this for the next 5 years, and it's just not going to happen. So I did it. I have a very beautiful money-eating machine standing on the top of the hill, which I love to bits. And yeah, if you talk about support system, I pay for it, but I think it's been part of my support system as well, because it gave me a sense of purpose on days that I quite frankly, felt useless and didn't want to get out of bed after leaving a company like that. So you have to put pants on and you have to go to the horse because it will not ride itself, right? Yeah. That's been really good as well. And on the bad days, you just kind of perks you up and it feels good, and that's wonderful. I can recommend it.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could ride, but I love that you sort of looking at that. I guess that life in a holistic way. It's not just what's the dream job with a career, but really, you know what, I've always wanted to have a horse, and in fact, that has sort of fed into your career as well.
Strangely, yes, it all came together. And if I look back now on how I used to look at things, I guess that's why this is funny, but that's why I don't understand why people get tattoos. And they're for life, but your life changes, and it can change, and you should let it change. Because what if I was still stuck there? I don't think I would be very happy. So it's again, hindsight's 2020. I know that now. It looked very different about a year and a half ago, but yeah, it's good.
Well, we can't, as we said, we can't go back and change our decisions, right? All we can do is make the right decisions now and in the future. So hold on to that sort of realization that you've been making courageous and amazing choices, and then keep making those in the future.
I hope so. Yeah.
So we mentioned at the beginning, you know, what if you had stayed longer and you would have become resentful, or maybe some people reach burnout and so on. What advice would you give someone who's sort of not quite there yet, but sort of considering leaving? Like, how can they identify that, yeah, now is the time to go before it's almost too late in a way?
It's facing the beast head on. It's going to happen. If you're already on your way to being burnt out and you are unhappy, it will happen. And I found myself in a similar position at some point in P&G as well. You need to face it head on, and you need to be incredibly honest to yourself. Why am I doing this? For whom am I doing this? And is this really what fits with my core values, right? Do I really want to sacrifice what I believe in for the greater good or for the good of the company? Now, if that answer is I'm fine with that, then that's perfectly fine. Then continue. Then maybe you just had a bad boss or a bad month, and then you just need to talk about it and move on. But if that feeling continues to nag, like there is something that just not matching, like it doesn't line up with what I feel and what I think you should be doing, then you will burn out unless you face it. And facing it can be done in many different ways. Facing it can be learning to deal with it, or realizing that the situation is temporary, or realizing that this might never change and it's time to go. And in my case, time to go. And which is fine. At the end of the day, it was actually perfectly fine.
So it sounds like a bit of awareness of knowing what's going on and, you know, if it's temporary and what's causing it, and also then some intentionality, either choose to stay or choose to leave. But I guess that for certainly that sort of, I should do this or I should do that, and not doing it can be quite soul destroying.
It will. It will catch up with you eventually. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's either you go for it or you don't, but there's nothing in between. And that's the same with searching for a job or finding the right new position or starting a new project. That either you do it or you don't, right? There's no, maybe a little bit, some on the side. No, it's just not going to work. Again, tried it. It doesn't work.
You make the mistake so that we don't have to. Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Yeah, but I think that's really, really important. And realizing that it's okay. It is okay to not feel comfortable in a job. It is okay to maybe feel like it's time for change. And it's really, really okay to take a decision that didn't work out very well, because then something else will come along. It is okay. It's okay. And then nobody's going to tell you that it's wrong, and they might tell you that it's wrong, but then maybe they want to leave as well. So you never really know what's behind that kind of feedback. So.
It's okay. Love it.
Okay.
Great. Well, it's so lovely to hear more about your story and to see you doing so well and enjoying your time with your beautiful horses. Where can we find you in the wonderful blogosphere and the world of influencers? Where can I direct people to find out more?
So if you want to follow my horse life, you best go to Instagram, which is at _stylish_equestrian. But it's also on Facebook at the Stylish Equestrian. And the website is thestylishequestrian.com. So they are all linked together to the fashion and horse lifestyle. And then on the other hand, I have my Stylish Equestrian consulting business as well, which is my commercial small business consulting business that you can find under the stylishequestrianconsulting.com.
Well, amazing. And again, we talked about this a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, and they were just sort of little seedlings in your mind. So it's just fantastic to see it all have really been realised and grown so big. So congratulations, and let's see what happens next in the exciting roller coaster of
I'll give you a call when I make
business.
my first million, yeah?
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you.